So here's Thrasher magazine. Keep in mind, ICE wouldn't exist if you and I were surrounded by smart people. It shouldn't exist, but it does. So does unconstitutional taxes. Same applies to the agenda that was rolled out during the last Trump administration, involving folks with more melanin in their skin. These are the same tactics, by and large. But people aren't paying attention. They're not willing to actually do the right thing. One too many fucking thoughts. Okay. Social credit slavery is on the docket. You and I are debt slaves. We became debt slaves in 1913, and we're moving towards for social credit slavery. Case in point, Thrasher bought into verification. That verification process is a class system. It's bullshit. I mean, as is, you and I already rent our ID. Think about it. We quite literally rent our identification, which is absurd. That's not something free people would do, but most people would probably justify it. Well, how else do you manage this? And how do you do that? Well, it's not something free people would do, but what do I know? Yeah, because you and I are anything but free. So here's Thrasher magazine. Again, what I'm saying is Thrasher magazine is denouncing ICE. Yeah? Which is fascism. It's insane. It shouldn't exist. It's more like the S.A. Sally Abraham. You with me? In terms of Nazi horse shit. But most people would probably understand it as the Gestapo, even though it's not quite the Gestapo. So here's Thrasher magazine. Do you see anywhere on here where I can comment? Fuck no. Because patently fascist censorship. They know that people are going to open their mouths, and they're not permitting anybody, what would it be? A soapbox is one way to put it, but they're not giving people the right to voice their opinions, their thoughts, and or teach people who aren't fucking paying attention, something that is worth knowing, even though if I left something on there, it would probably fall to the bottom of the stack and be hidden. Maybe I'm wrong. These things frustrate me. I am following Thrasher magazine, mind you. At least it's not Insta spam, thank heavens, but it still really, really fucking pisses me off, and it should piss you off too. This is not how things should be. This is also a contradiction in a number of ways, because fascism wouldn't be alive and well today if people hadn't catered to patently fascist censorship. Shadow banning, canceling, polarizing, positive vibes only, and all those other things that I'd rattle off, and nobody seems to give a shit. Most likely because most of you have done that in the past, which means you supported fascism to one degree or another. The point is for you to change how you operate for the better. Not dashing around screaming at the sky and saying, we're striking and we're doing this and we're doing that. Peaceful protests don't change anything, and history reflects that. In other words, right now, our masters are pulling a lot of people's strings and they're marching in lockstep. This is useless. More importantly, it says in here, this is not an anti-American statement. Okay. America became a corporation in 1871. Citizens became debt slaves in 1913. The concept of the republic is vastly different from democracy, both of which are far removed from what America allegedly once stood for. I mean, America is under the banner of the District of Columbia, which is part of the three-tier fascist structure that governs most things in what you would probably consider the world. I shit you not. And yes, these things do have to do with fascism through and fucking through, but nobody wants to focus on pulling up the weeds or cutting the heads off the snake. Or snakes, pardon me, it's plural. After all, it is a plutocracy. I mean, these are all flowery sentiments, and it doesn't change a single fucking thing for the good or for the better. Sorry, I'm tired of rattling things like this off. This is a horrible fucking presentation, and I found it absolutely disheartening that you can't leave a comment on here, and Thrasher magazine bought into being verified. At a blush, this is how you can sum things up. You can size things up. You can see who's marching in lockstep, and most people are, and that's why things are bad. It's not what anybody wants to hear, but it's fucking true. 18,000 people have circulated it, which in some ways, that is encouraging that there's 18,000 people out there that want to do the right thing. In theory, that is encouraging. Technically, it looks like 194,000. Technically. But how many of them are catering to all of these numerous facets of a greater agenda having to do with fascism? I mean, for fuck's sake, I complain about people using emojis, but it is a telltale sign that people are not thinking for themselves, and they're quite literally modeling their behavior after the idiot in front of them, marching in lockstep with their horse blinders on. Yes, they're cute. Yes, they're friendly. Yes, it's convenient. And if something's too good to be true, it probably fucking is. And if it was written into free social media platforms, it's a red flag. But most people aren't willing to stop using emojis. Just like most people aren't willing to actually do the right thing, band together, organize a plan outside of a digital format, and execute said plan to see that organizations like ICE no longer exist. And I just spent 6 minutes. Most of you probably didn't bother with this. If you think that Trump is behind all of this, it's laughable. You're superficial. You don't have a fucking clue how any of this works. And I say things like that to goad you, to challenge you. I encourage you to look into it. I don't mean a superficial Google search where it's probably going to say, well, Trump said this, and that's why it is. That's not how this works. Trump is a puppet. At best, he's a face man of the District of Columbia. At best. Trump is not behind this. Trump is just the face that you've seen paraded around having to do with this. So when you see stuff like current conduct of Trump administration, yeah, it's being funneled through there. But if you haven't taken the time to try to figure out why this is happening in the first place and who's financing it, who wrote it up in a boardroom meeting and then, let it trickle down and get filtered through the Trump administration, well, you're technically not doing the right thing, and you're sure as shit nowhere close to seeing that ICE no longer exists.